What's up, my YouTube people? Thanks for coming back to see just what I do today. My name is Stacy, if you didn't know that, if you're new to my channel. There's a reason why my channel is called Just What I Do. It's a little bit of just what I do every day. And as you can tell, today we are inside because it's starting to get rather cold out because a storm is rolling through. So today, I thought it would be a good day to make some soup. Now today's soup is going to be country pork rib vegetable soup. So there's going to be a lot of vegetables in it, as you can see as what's sitting in front of us. So let me run down this real quick and we'll continue on with making this country pork rib soup. Now we're going to need 2 big cans of diced tomatoes. We're going to throw in some okra. We're going to dice up this onion. We're going to throw in green beans, corn, a bunch of carrots, about 10 potatoes diced up, and of course, pork ribs. Country style pork ribs. That's what we're going to be throwing in this one today. And we're also going to be using some beef bouillon. I was going to do the pork one, but Walmart was out, so beef will do just fine. So the first step that we want to do in starting this recipe is dice up the pork ribs. So let me move all this stuff real quick and we'll dice up the pork ribs and I'll show you how I'm going to do it. The next step, anyways. Now the first step we're going to be doing, as I said before, is dicing up all these pork ribs into somewhat bite-sized pieces, so that way you can get a piece of pork and some veggies all in one bite. And then we're going to take those diced pork rib, and we're going to throw it in this bag. It has flour and a little bit of cornstarch in it. We're going to toss it around, fry it in some oil before we go putting it in the soup. So let me dice up this pork and I'll show you the next step. Okay, I got the last of the pork chops diced up. As you can tell, they are not super big dices. They are not, little tiny. And I took out any giant chunks of fat that might have been in there. And of course bones, took out the bones too. I have a pan screeching hot and all the pork ribs in this bag. So we're going to shake up this bag and then drop some in the oil and fry it up. Now you just want to make sure that your Ziploc bag is closed before you go shaking it. Okay, this is a mixture of flour and cornstarch, a little bit more flour than cornstarch. As you can hear that my pan is nice and hot now, so let's drop some in the pan. Now we're not completely cooking the pork, we're just mostly browning the pork. You want to shake off any excess flour as best you can before sticking it in the oil. We're going to let that go until all sides are nice and brown. I'm going to finish up the rest of this bag, and I'll show you the next step as soon as these are all browned. Now as you can see, we've got the last of the pork all nice and browned. We're going to pull that out of the pan and just set it aside for now. Now I did change out the oil once when it got a little too floury at the bottom, so I didn't want it to burn and make the meat taste all burnt and funky. Now I did season the meat with seasonal when it came out of the fryer. Now we're not going to dump this oil. We're going to turn this down a little bit so it doesn't burn, so the flour doesn't burn that's in it. I diced up one medium onion, just, a small dice because I don't want big mouthfuls of onion. And we're going to throw it in with the rest of this flour and oil mixture that we used to cook the pork in. Now we're not really browning the onions, we're just going to let them soften so it kind of gets the raw flavor out a little bit. And then the flavor from the pork and the flour will also flavor the onions too. So I'm going to let these onions go until they're soft, and when I bring it back, we'll start building the broth. As you can see, we've gotten all these onions nice and soft now. So we are going to set this pan aside, pour over the big soup pot. Crank that up to high. As you can see right now, all I have in it is water. We are going to season our water with some beef bouillon. Now you don't have to do this part if you don't want to. It's just I want a really flavorful broth. Again, I did want to use pork broth, or try again. I did want to use pork bouillon, but of course Walmart was out of it, amongst other things I wanted to get that day. So, as you can see, I am making a giant pot of soup. I don't do anything small, cooking-wise, because I always like leftovers. That's one less dinner. I have to figure out what the heck to make. That and this freezes really well, too. So, I'm going to take this bouillon, and I'm going to put about 4 of these spoonfuls in, give it a taste. If it tastes good, then we're done. If it doesn't taste like it has enough in it, we'll add some more. Just make sure you do it to your liking. Now, as you can see, I am not doing small spoonfuls. And I measure nothing on this channel. Very rarely will you actually see a measuring spoon. So that was number 3. We'll do one more. Let it come to a nice boil. Give it a taste. And we'll go from there. So I'm going to get a spatula real quick. Give this a nice stir. It's looking good so far. But we're going to let this come to a boil so everything kind of melds in there. Give it a taste, and then we'll move on from there. Well, we have that up to a nice, flavorful boil now. So the first thing we're going to add to this nice broth is our onions that we softened. We're just going to add them all into it real quick. And all that leftover flour, because that will help thicken the soup. Not like thicken it like gravy, but not too thick. And then we're going to add our green beans. Now the frozen green beans are better than the canned green beans. If you do use the canned green beans, just throw them in last minute so they're not all mush in your soup. And then we're going to throw in our corn. Now we're going to throw in our okra. Now if you don't like okra or any of the other vegetables that I'm sticking in here, then just add one that you do like. Now the next step is to add our tomatoes. Now again, if you're making this just for yourself, just cut all the portion sizes in half. Use like half a bag of green beans or half a bag of corn, or if you don't like green beans and corn in it, then omit the corn and green beans. Put in a vegetable that you do like. You can always add broccoli or cauliflower or even squash and pumpkin in this. Now again, these are just 2 big cans of regular diced tomatoes. I'm going to give this a good stir. Now while this is coming back up to temp, I'm going to dice up or chunk up the carrots and the potatoes. Now yes, there are some bones in here because I trimmed the bones off of the pork ribs and I just threw those in to help flavor the broth. So now we've got our onions, our corn, green beans, okra, and both cans of tomatoes in here. Let this come back up to a boil. I'm going to cut up the carrots and the green beans, and I'll bring you back in just a second. Okay, now that that's starting to come to a boil, I have about 6 medium-sized potatoes. We're just going to dump that all in. Now I just sort of chunked them up. Not too big, but not too small. I'll throw all these in. Give this a good stir. Now I'm going to dice up the carrots real quick. Alright, now, that's not quite to a boil yet, but it's just about. It's looking really good so far. So I got the carrots all chunked up, no particular size. We're going to dump all that in. Yes, this pot is getting really full, but we're going to leave this at a high simmer for a bit to let some of the juice or broth kind of condense down and become more flavorful. We're just going to try and stir all this together without making a mess. So, to go over what's all in here for now, it's got a nice beef broth that we made. It's got a medium diced onion. It's got 1 bag of frozen green beans. Now you could use fresh green beans if you wanted to, but I like the frozen. It goes better in a soup. Now if you're using canned green beans, as I said before, wait till last minute to throw them in so they don't become mush. Now it also has 1 bag of frozen corn and 2 bags of frozen okra. And then it also has about 5 diced tomatoes, somewhat chunked up tomatoes, and about 12 carrots cut up. So, we're going to let, and 2 big cans of diced tomatoes. That's all that's in here. Now, again, if there's a vegetable in here that you do not like, then don't put it in. If you want to just leave it as carrots and potatoes with, that's my phone, with some country-style pork in it, then do so. Just make it to your liking. Now, right now, we're going to try and season this up a bit more with some black pepper. Now, again, this is a giant pot of soup. Make it to your liking. Season it to your liking. We're also going to add some garlic after I open it. But for now, we are going to add some onion powder. Now, if you want to make this spicy, you can add some peppers to it, or even some cayenne powder. Now that I got it open, we're going to add some garlic. Now, if you like lots of garlic, then add lots of garlic. You can even add fresh chopped garlic to this, just that the powdered is a little easier way to go. Now, we are also going to be seasoning this with some seasonal. Now, again, you want to be careful with this because the bouillon does have a lot of salt in it. So you want to make sure you keep tasting to make sure that it's not overly salty. And you always want to keep tasting to make sure it's all flavored to your liking. You don't need a bland soup. Give that a good stir. Mix it all in. We're going to let this go for like 20-30 minutes. Then the potatoes should be completely soft. The carrots should be soft. And we should be ready to add in our pork country ribs that we cooked up earlier. So for now, I'm going to let this simmer. The juice is going to condense down a bit more and become more flavorful by then. So we will have room to add in our country pork ribs that we cooked earlier. So I'll see you back here in about 20 to 30 minutes. Alright, we got that to a nice roving boil now, and some of the broth has condensed down. As you can see, it's not quite as full as it was. The potatoes are nice and soft, the carrots are nice and soft, and so is the okra and the green beans. And so everything's ready to add the pork back in now. Now again, this was country pork ribs that we cut up, threw in some flour, and just lightly fried them. So they don't need much cooking time at all. So we're going to add that in. Yes, there's a lot of veggies in there. If you want more pork, then add more pork to it. And less veggies. So we're going to give this a good stir. Mix in all that pork country rib in there. We're going to let this go for about another 5 minutes or so the rest of the pork cooks, especially on the bigger chunks because they're just slightly pink in the middle. So we're going to let this go for about 5 minutes. And I'll bring you back when it's all done and ready to try. Well, the soup is finally finished. As you saw, all the vegetables were done, nice and soft and tender. The pork is finished cooking, and the sauce has thickened, or the broth has thickened. Now that is one of the reasons why we tossed the country pork ribs in some flour and fried them, because the flour also helps thicken the broth. Now it doesn't thicken it so much to where it's like gravy, but it thickens it a bit more to where it's more like a stew. And that would be Bear. Bubba! Beat a breath. Okay, so I got you a nice bowl sitting here ready to taste. Let me grab you a bite real quick. It's going to be a big mouthful. I'll try to get you a little bit of everything. Nope. There we go. Okay, there's some okra on there and potato. So here you go. Open up wide. That was a big mouthful, wasn't it? You're a little hot, too. So, I hope you'll give this recipe a try. I think it came out pretty good. Now again, this was country pork rib vegetable soup. Now it's a somewhat cold day out because a icky storm is coming through, so I thought we'd make soup today for family night dinner. So, I'm going to wrap up this video. I hope you enjoyed watching me make this soup, this country pork rib vegetable soup. Now again, you can add whatever kind of vegetables you want. You don't have to add what I added. But it has lots of vegetables in it. I'll go over what it had real quick. It had carrots, green beans, corn, tomatoes, potatoes, okra, and of course, country pork ribs. So I'm going to end this video. I hope you will give this recipe a try. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell and leave comments on some of my videos, because if you don't subscribe and leave a comment on some of my videos, you can't be entered in the money and merch giveaway. That's the only two stipulations I have to be entered in the contest, is you have to be a subscriber and leave a comment once in a while on some of my videos. If you don't leave a comment and you're not subscribed, then you can't win. Now I am going to make a video about that I just haven't gotten around to it. I'll explain it a bit more, and I'll show some of the merch and how much money I'm going to be giving away. There will be a first prize and a second prize winner, but only if you're subscribed. If you're not subscribed, you're going to miss out, because it's going to be a whole comment on this video type giveaway. So, again, thanks for watching Just What I Do today. Please subscribe and whack the like button. Let me know what you think of this country rib pork country rib vegetable soup. And if you're going to give it a try, please leave a comment down below and let me know how it came out for you. Sorry, puppies keep distracting me. So again, thanks for watching Just What I Do. Leave a comment down below on what you think of this recipe and what you liked about this video. And I'll catch you next time on Just What I Do. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.